Loneliness permeates our movies, books, TV shows, art, music, and even our daily lives. How does it manifest in our games though? Video games have the power to evoke a range of emotions from excitement and joy to fear and frustration. But if you've been gaming for a hot minute, I'm sure you can name more than one game that made you feel alone. Numerous games come to mind when considering those that kind of force players to confront the feeling of being alone. But for now, I want to focus on the game on the screen, Soma, a game all about loneliness. I mean, with an end credits theme titled Alone, what do you expect? Now, if you want to know more about this game, I simply recommend that you play it. It's a masterpiece of psychological horror, offering an eerie glimpse into the human psyche, inviting players to confront their fears of isolation. But the thing is, 1, like and subscribe, I mean it. And 2, Soma doesn't just give you the creeps with its dystopian narrative and monsters lurking around every corner. Nah, it goes deeper. In this game, you're forced to face the mirror and look at your own vulnerability, to accept what it means to be alone.
And still be alone. No friends. No family.
You could make new friends. I'm sure everyone would like to know the time traveler. If not, you still have...
Catherine? Kath? Hello, Catherine.
You're not just battling virtual terrors, but grappling with something way more primal. And that's precisely what I feared in Soma. The thought of having no one, it terrified me. A lot like back when I was a 4-year-old playing Luigi's Mansion for the first time. A kid who could watch movies like The Gremlins without any trouble, but put me in a haunted mansion, all on my own, armed with just a vacuum cleaner to catch ghosts, and suddenly it was a whole different story.
Do you remember when I was a kid? You remember me playing Luigi's Mansion? You remember how I couldn't play it without you? You remember that?
Yeah, you were scared. Yeah, I don't know, I used to freak out. You know, walking to the house?
Yeah, walking to the house.
Yeah, that spooked you.
I couldn't play it without you. I really struggled. I'd always want to play Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah, you'd always want to play it with me. I didn't know that you had to play it. But you'd want to play it with me.
If my mum wasn't right there with me, I couldn't play Luigi's Mansion. Kind of pathetic, I know, but it is what it is. Without her presence, the game was paralyzing. And similarly, in Soma, each time I was left to wander through the empty, eerie facilities deep beneath the cold Atlantic Ocean, I could barely stomach playing. Okay, why are you telling me this? You see, there are these moments in Soma where Catherine, a quasi-companion of sorts, becomes severed from the player's experience. You can only reach her through an Omni tool once connected to a computer terminal.
Oh, this feels weird. I'm in the Omnitool? Thanks.
And every time I lost contact with her, it hit me hard, triggering a visceral response within me. It wasn't solely due to the sensation of solitude, but rather the uncertainty of Catherine's presence on the other end of the radio. The anxiety of hooking up that Omni tool and being met with silence stirred emotions akin to those felt by Simon, the game's protagonist.
See you soon, Simon.
Catherine? You okay?
Catherine's soothing voice was a beacon of warmth. It became a lifeline that helped me navigate the frigid ocean that surrounded me. She mirrored my mother's actions, who years ago, seated right behind me, would comfort me as I played Luigi's Mansion. But for that child who lacked a mother, a parental figure, or a comforting presence like Catherine, whether in traversing a haunted mansion, the abyssal seafloor, or the intricacies of life itself, how tough would that be? To know that you're alone.
The me that I am, the same that I've always been. Please say something. I don't want to think. Please.
I don't know what to say. I don't want to upset you.
Say anything.
Oddly enough, these video games, the ones that immerse me in isolation, are a stark reminder of my privilege. Although not perfect, my upbringing has cultivated an affinity for solitude. I love being alone because I've always had the warm comfort of love around me, and no matter where I am, I always feel loved. Even in the game, I never got the chance to wake up as one of the many Simons left behind in Soma, Catherineless, with no hope of encountering another being, no chances to hear another familiar voice, or to see a friendly face.
That's how it works, you know that.
What do you mean?
You know it's not magic. You were copied. The sleeping Simon in the seat was copied, and now you are here, just like Simon lived on in Toronto.
God damn you, Kath. 2 Simons? There can't be 2 Simons.
What did you think would happen?
That you were gonna take my mind and put it into another body, like a brain transplant.
I'm sorry, it wouldn't work that way.
You realize how messed up this is?
Please, I didn't mean to upset you.
How did you expect me to react to this shit?
Please stop.
You're fucking disgusting. What's gonna happen to him?
He'll sleep for a while, a few days.
And then what? Wake up in this fucking nightmare again? All alone?
Well, what do you want me to do with him?
I've never truly experienced that gut-wrenching feeling of having absolutely nothing and no one, except, well, at the end of Soma. During the game's final moments, amid a heated argument, you seemingly lose Catherine, and the game concludes with Simon calling out her name.
I can't be responsible for your goddamn ignorance!
Catherine? Please don't leave me alone. Catherine? Catherine?
It was precisely at that instant that I understood it, the pain of being alone, my fear of losing that comfort, that familiar voice, that familiar face, realized. And that's why these games get to me, why they stick around in my mind like a haunting presence. They're not just creepy experiences, they're not just games, they don't just allow players to experience solitude firsthand. They don't simply focus on exploring personal stories that unveil a character's lonely experiences. They tap into something profound, something that resonates within all of us. Loneliness is a universal emotion, and it's the one emotion that every human being can relate to. And it's an emotion shared by every Silent Hill character. James Sunderland embodies the heartache of a grieving husband, ensnared in the loss of his wife, frozen in time, unable to forge ahead. Travis Grady emerges as a tormented and solitary truck driver, haunted by a shadowy past that clings to him like a relentless specter. Heather Mason takes center stage as a young, yearning teenage girl, desperately seeking the presence of a paternal figure to fill the void. Then there's Henry Townsend, who finds himself literally imprisoned within the walls of his apartment, a captive to his surroundings, barred from escape with no friendly visits permitted. It's these characters that bring out the feelings of isolation and loneliness, even more than the games. Stay there, bro. Even more than the games they're a part of. And this is why Silent Hill has this incredible hold on me. It offers a distinctive platform for players to experience and interact with loneliness firsthand, not just through the gameplay, but the people, the characters you meet, the characters you play as. They're all soaked in seclusion, rejects, and along with that rejection comes this heavy dose of desolation.
You gonna be okay alone?
I'm not a child, you know. Are you sure it's not you who's afraid to be alone?
You're right. I am afraid.
Every character carries this burden of loneliness born out of a lack of acceptance. They're characters who can't even accept themselves. Maybe I'm a little bit too close to the camera. Maybe we should back up a bit. Yeah, that's good. The inhabitants of Silent Hill serve as a stark reminder that while many may grasp the concept of being loved, most are devoid of genuine affection. Love remains elusive for most, and the warmth of unconditional love, well, that's an experience many have never known, especially for those in Silent Hill. And this loveless existence is pretty fitting, considering how I've always seen Silent Hill as a mirror. Bro, so much nonsense from that bucket, bro, just is in my head. Excuse me. Sorry, where? Oh yeah. How often I've seen Silent Hill as a mirror of what hell might be. Yeah, of course I've come across the Bible verses of fire and brimstone. But think about it. What if hell for us was just an endless stretch of nothing? Torment, a forever imprisonment in limbo, that lonely, unfeeling void. A constant absence of love, of warmth, unnoticed, unheard, eternally captive, confined within seemingly invisible boundaries with no way out, forever lost in seclusion, a place made up of nothing, a place where you're alone. So for a generation of people who cannot be alone for any given moment, what do these games mean? How do they relate to us? What can we learn from them? Simply put, these games and their portrayal of aloneness, if that's a word, serve as digital reflections of our collective psyche. Well, okay, sure, I just said a bunch of nonsense words. What does that mean? As a generation accustomed to perpetual connectivity, the experience of being alone becomes a rarity, if not an enigma. So you have our inherent fear of isolation, and juxtapose that with an incessant need for personal space and introspection. I have no idea what it is I just said. Don't quote me on that, and these are just two staplers. I'm literally just saying a bunch of wank, you know. And by making video games that immerse players in solitary environments, you end up creating space literally and figuratively. Space where the external noises fade, allowing, I'd say, two doors to open, which in turn gives space to two families of internal dialogue to rise to the forefront. Again, these are just staplers. Peace and fear. Soma was as frightening as it was calming. Silent Hill is as creepy as it is beautiful. You get the point. You're alone in that field punching trees, alone in that seemingly innocent children's restaurant, alone in Hyrule, or alone in a fractured world. But the opportunity for self-discovery and contemplation will always be present. That or an opportunity... I almost poked my finger with a stapler, man. As I was saying, that or the opportunity to shit your pants. Just know that these games are essential in an era that often prioritizes external validation, just as important as silence in a noisy world. Watch this video I made on silence if you're enjoying this one. Shameless plug, but I don't care. I really don't. Sue me. The emotions evoked by these lonely games can range from discomfort to catharsis. They challenge us to confront our unease with solitude, forcing us to reevaluate our perceptions of loneliness. Are we truly alone when we have our thoughts, dreams, and imaginations as companions? Are we alone when some of us have family and friends that love us, a God we believe in, or a life full of opportunity? Are these games urging us to confront ourselves by forcing us to spend time with ourselves instead of submerging ourselves, I'm saying that word a lot, in the presence of others? There was something in my shoe too. Sorry about that. This is a very weird video. Being alone is hard, and it's even harder to understand. Why am I alone in a world full of people? Why do I feel alone? Birds fly together, lions hunt together, fish swim in schools, rats breed colonies, bees, ants, and wasps form armies. Most of all life on Earth spends time together. Being alone isn't a familiar feeling, even if more and more people feel it. I feel this is why loneliness, when concentrated to its purest form in some of these games, whether it be the Backrooms, Portal, or any liminal nightmare, they're used to make us feel out of place and uncomfortable, and this is why they're so popular. These inescapable hells with no explanation. They're the perfect trauma food for this lonely generation. Games that invite us to ponder the significance of genuine connection in a world dominated by superficial interactions. And again, they do this by forcing you to stare loneliness in the face, transporting you to a place where you're alone, to think. No distractions, no escape. You're prompted to seek out meaning and purpose within the confines of virtual isolation, to live out experiences that serve as a counterbalance to the fragmented nature of modern life. At least that's how it feels to me. We treat the thought of being alone like a villain lurking in the shadows, and I kind of find that amusing, as arguably the very first emotion that humans experience is the one we run from the most. You begin life on your own, and you end it alone. But for some reason, we can't stomach being alone. We need that voice, that comfort, and if you have no comfort within that loneliness, within that silence, I guess that's why it's so shattering and devastating for many. To die alone, well, that's why we all want to have a familiar voice nearby as we pass. And when we're alone in the womb, we kick to get a response, for our mothers to speak, interact, and remind us, that child, that she's there. To be comforted while alone in that space, like how Catherine comforted me when I was alone playing Soma, or how my mother did when I was alone playing Luigi's Mansion. But they weren't always there. They couldn't always be there. Your loved ones will hopefully live on after you pass, and the pregnant mother, she eventually has to give birth, and that child has to grow and will ultimately be alone in this vast world at one point or another. So loneliness is something we should all embrace, a feeling that to me has always felt like a save room in Resident Evil. Haunting, sure, but always so comforting. I know loneliness is a thing many people suffer from. Even so, as scary as being alone is, I think it's misunderstood. The beast of solitude isn't a beast at all. Again, once 4-year-old me learnt to accept that mum wouldn't always be around to comfort me in that mansion, it became easier to play. Once I accepted that there was a possibility I'd never hear Catherine's voice again, being alone at the bottom of that ocean wasn't that bad. Once you embrace the silence, the thoughts, when you finally manage to turn your loneliness into freedom, life gets a lot easier. But all of this is easier said than done. There's an intricate relationship between seclusion and companionship, and it helps to remember that genuine connection begins with a sincere connection to oneself, similar to how you can't love others if you can't love yourself. If you can't be alone in a room, if you can't be alone in this world, if you can't be alone with your thoughts, that's a problem. There may be a time when we must face that mirror, and for many that time came and went.
The next few weeks will then be an enormous challenge. Never before in modern times has the country been under lockdown.
Moments of aloneness are not to be feared but embraced, and the lessons these games impart resonate far beyond the screen. Face yourself and confront that loneliness within you. Because as you learn what it means to be alone, you ultimately weave a more profound connection to the tapestry of life itself. I'm aware that was extremely, extremely pretentious.